Oh, hello, you've caught me mourning the death of my inner child. See, it's never easy to realize that a game that you've defended before isn't as good as you thought and is actually just okay. In this case, Sonic Heroes. It hit me pretty hard. Sonic Heroes. To some, it's the true Sonic Adventure 3. For some reason. The first mainline Sonic game to be released after Sega became a third-party developer, meaning it was released on the Xbox, GameCube, and PS2. I played the GameCube version because that's what I own, although that doesn't really matter because I emulated it, just to make recording a bit easier because as this game is long, and GameCube cables are not. This game's development was led Yuji Naka and Takashi Iizuka, and lasted almost 2 years. As this was the first multi-platform game, they decided not to make it a direct sequel to Adventure 2 in hopes that it would have a wider appeal to a general audience. So they made the story a lot more simple. Instead of character-focused stories, it was basic heroes teaming up to stop evil, and this idea would evolve into the team action gameplay that would become the basis for Sonic Heroes. They also tried to make the game more in line with the Genesis titles, which at first seems fucking stupid because this game is nothing like those, but structurally it actually makes a fair bit of sense. There aren't overarching stories, and this game would bring back special stages. Modes like Chow Garden were also cut as they feared they would become pace-breaking somehow. And every zone has 2 acts, like Sonic 2 and 3. There's also one more similarity that I'll go over later because it's part of what makes this game so tedious. Iizuka also claimed that development of this game was the most stressful of his career because of Sega's management and deadlines. Good to see some things never change. So we once again have multiple stories, 4 teams this time, so let's start with Team Sonic. The story is Sonic is running around when Tails and Knuckles find him and give him a note saying that Eggman will take over the world in 3 days. And naturally they believe him because he somehow managed to print out an MP4, who knows what he'll do next. So they go and stop him by destroying his fleet. That's the plot. Nothing wrong with the simple story, but it is a huge contrast to Adventure 2's, which isn't a bad thing. To an extent, it's kind of refreshing to have just a simple story that I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to remember. Alright then, how does Team Sonic play? For now, I'll just focus on the gameplay style and talk about the gameplay more in depth after going through all 4 stories. Well, you have a 3-character formation with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. Sonic is the speed character, he's the fastest, he can homing attack, run on walls, use this tornado move, and not spin dash. Tails is the flight character, he can throw Sonic and Knuckles to hit airborne enemies and also makes this noise. And Knuckles is the power character, he can punch and throw using Sonic and Tails as weapons. He is also the only way you can glide in triangle formation, which is how you use these fans. That's right, the flight character doesn't use fans to fly, the heavy one does. The movement feels a bit slippery, it's not uncommon to be clinging to a wall because you can barely control where you are. And that's pretty much it for Team Sonic's story for now, so let's see what Team Dark offers. Hey, aren't you dead? Well, the story starts with Rouge sneaking into an Eggman vault and finding Shadow in this pod, but as it opens, this robot called Omega starts blowing up everything, leading to a fight. Rouge breaks it up, and we learn that Shadow has amnesia, and Omega just fucking hates Eggman and wants to destroy everything he's ever created. So Eggman found Shadow, huh? Did he just have a couple bad nicks down on Earth, just with a baseball mitt on, just waiting for him, like, come on, any minute now. This one's all mine. Also, now, one character tries to tell Shadow who he is, not even the other teams that show up when you cross their paths. They barely question Shadow being alive in the first place. Rouge and all of Team Sonic and the leader of Team Rose were all there. Why don't you just say, hey, this is what happened and why you probably have amnesia? You fell from fucking space.
Didn't you know? We have a date with Eggman too.
Is that so? Well then, it'll be a date to die for.
Hey, that's my line.
When have you ever said that?
We're flying very high. We might even be at the edge of space.
Space? Did you say space?
Once they're all on the Egg Fleet, Rouge finds a room full of Shadow androids, which brings up the question if this is actually the same Shadow as in Adventure 2, or just a recreation. And then the story ends. So, how does Team Dark play? Well, this is where the very big conceptual issue that I mentioned earlier shows up. So in Adventure 1, you had 6 characters that played differently but went through the same set of levels. In Adventure 2, you had 2 teams that played the same but went through, for the most part, completely unique levels. So in Heroes, you have 4 teams that all play the same and go through the same set of levels. So after playing through this game, you have to play the same damn game 3 more times. And if there wasn't a last story, I would actually be fine with this, as it'd be another nod to Genesis Sonic, specifically Sonic 2 and a bit of 3. There aren't really any differences between the characters you pick, and you're playing the same game again. So now that that's out of the way, let's quickly go through these last 2 teams and last story before diving into how this game felt like how I imagine birds feel when they fly into glass. Team Rosa's story is that Cream the Rabbit from the advanced games lost one of her chow, and Big lost that fucking frog again. So, Amy agrees to help them out. I forget how the story ends. I think maybe Amy chases after Sonic or something. I honestly could not be asked to remember. And lastly, there's Team Chaotix from Knuckles' Chaotix. Mighty doesn't get to be here though. Mighty has to stay locked in the vault for another decade and a half. They do have more unique gameplay as the levels have objectives other than just getting to the end. I hate them. Their detectives hired to find out what the hell Eggman is doing by a mysterious client, and they accept it because they're at Dante levels of being broke. Going into the last story, they find out that their client was actually the real Eggman, and the one who's been showing up before was a decoy. Turns out Metal Sonic had locked him up and took over the Egg Fleet to prove himself better than Sonic once and for all, now dubbed Neo Metal Sonic. He's been watching and observing the teams in action, collecting their data and using it to transform into the Metal Overlord. Man, I miss when Metal got to be cool like this. I wrote fucking I wish. I miss when Metal got to be cool like this. So the teams bring together the Chaos Emeralds that you've been collecting, right? You've been collecting them? Yeah, you've been collecting them. They weaken up the Metal Overlord, then Sonic goes super, but not Tails and Knuckles, which they just get these shields, which is lame. And they show Metal Sonic what they're made of, completely kick his ass, everyone goes their separate ways. Story-wise, it ain't that bad. It's cheesy, yeah, but it fits with the game's overall theme. And it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it makes the cheese come off more as endearing than cringy. And visually, I think this game looks the best so far. I love the bright and cartoony look the game has. Everything feels very distinct and pops really nicely. I definitely prefer it over Adventure 1 and 2, at least by a little. And this is also where I think the voice acting starts to really get good. But playing this game can be a war of attrition. Needing to not only play this game 4 times, but then also get all the Chaos Emeralds, it's just so tedious and annoying that even if I enjoyed a single playthrough, the game as a whole kind of suffers. Here's how it should have been. Firstly, last story should have been an extension to Team Sonic alone, like how the ending of Sonic 3 was only for Hyper Sonic. Now, whether or not you should have had to get the emeralds on Sonic's story specifically or just in general, it doesn't matter. But then all you'd have to do to get the true ending is beat the final level with all of the emeralds collected. That's it. 1 playthrough. 1 story, full ending. Next time you come play the game, you can try one of the other teams. This cuts the need to play through the same 14 levels and 7 bosses, which is actually just the same 3 bosses recycled over and over with 1 unique boss, which is actually just that first boss again, into 1 playthrough that actually just has 3 bosses. But that wouldn't fix the experience I had playing this game, because at times, it was kind of rough. Firstly, to get the emeralds, you need to find these keys in the levels, and then get to the end without getting hit once. Which means if you're right at the end, but oh, you fuck up and take a hit, gotta restart the fucking level. The bosses just straight suck. The Eggman ones are tedious and the team ones are mindless. Metal Overlord is the only cool one, and I think it is the best supersonic boss so far. It is a lot more involved than just flying into weak spots. Not that those are bad, but this felt a bit more like a fight and less like a spectacle. I still think SA2 has this one beat when it comes to hype and context, but maybe that's the shadow simp in me talking. But like, man, to this day, even post Frontiers, what I'm made of is still my favorite supersonic theme. By a decent margin. And one of the bigger problems with the game is that the levels are just too fucking long. Some of the Team Sonic levels took me almost 10 minutes. And there aren't that many checkpoints, so dying can send you back a lot. But it's like, I haven't even gotten how jank the game could fucking be. Sometimes I'll land, and Sonic would just fuck off to his death. Sometimes Tails will just stop flying or won't target the right enemy. This game still uses a one-button system for things like the lightspeed dash, and it doesn't always work right, but to be fair, it usually works when you need it to, which is to say, no it doesn't. I'm not joking when I say every time I'm starting to think positively about the game, maybe I got through a level really well, I was actually starting to have a lot of fun, the moment the next level starts, some bullshit pulls up to shut me the fuck up mid-thought. And I'm sorry, could someone please explain to me how the fucking pinball physics work? Trick question because they don't. How do you fuck up pinball? It's been part of Sonic fucking forever. Why does it control like this? The rail switching actually does work when you need it to most of the time. I mean, with Rail Canyon, where every part of the level is fucking rails, there's gonna be a lot of shit that you just didn't see coming, which means, you died, get the fuck back. But if you try to rail switch sometimes when it's not necessary, and here's what's really weird about the game. It's actually secretly a lot of fun. Between the bullshit deaths, I was actually enjoying playing the game. Like a lot, I was having a lot of fun playing the game. But even then, it's still a bit fatiguing just knowing that you have more to do, or maybe you've already done it and you're obviously fatigued because this is your 4th time playing Casino Highway. The levels, like I said, they're just too long and checkpoints are too far between each other. You can get sent back 3 whole ass minutes for dying. There are full levels in Adventure 1 and 2 that don't last that long. And something I forgot to mention earlier is there's this level up system. Sometimes you'll find these orbs that level up a certain character, or whenever you go through a checkpoint, whatever character you're directly controlling will get a level up. Each character can get 3, and they just increase the damage it does because enemies for some reason have health bars, or alter some of the moves to be a bit wider or just a bit better. And this is a really cool mechanic. The problem is, if you die at any point, if all 3 characters are at level 3, your ass is back to level 0, which can be very fucking annoying. And what's more fucked up is in this mess of a game they actually included a team that's consistently fun. Yeah, Team Rouge's levels are near perfect, just the right length, and you can play as Big, who does this. What more can you ask for? And I'm being serious, Team Rouge is probably the most enjoyable way to play through this game, even if it is the 3rd time I've done this goddamn casino stage. My only problem is that Big's attacks can be stationary sometimes, but sometimes they're not, which is weird, and it can often kill the momentum. But if you have to play as only one team, play Team Rouge. It was during my Team Rouge playthrough that I actually started to really appreciate the music, because I wasn't constantly frustrated at the game. And I'd say this is one of the more underrated Sonic soundtracks. Can't say I'm surprised, since the characters are constantly talking and it'll turn your brain into mush. But again, I find it odd that the easiest story was put 3rd on the select screen. This story forces you to play the tutorial, and most people probably won't reach it before getting bored, or just being satisfied with having beaten 1 or 2 stories and putting the game down. And Amy also doesn't have the same tornado move that Sonic and Shadow do. She also can't lightspeed dash or bounce off walls. She has this glide, which I accidentally figured out how to do. It's weird that they decided to make these 2 stories almost identical gameplay wise, and then have one that's actually a little bit different. And then again, Team Chaotix, just no. Like I said, instead of regular levels, they have objective-based levels that I mentioned, which only makes the voice in my head telling me to just quit and pretend I beat it get louder. I'm already sick of these levels and bosses when I finish Team Sonic. How do you think I feel now? And here's how I'd fix this problem, assuming that the fix I gave earlier about cutting down the number of playthroughs needed didn't exist. But here's how I'd fix it structurally. First, Team Chaotix, fuck them. You don't need them. They're not necessary. They can show up in stories as team battles and even be in the multiplayer, but you don't really need a 4th playthrough. So, cut out the lowest common denominator. Next, make Team Rouge's stages the ones for Team Sonic. Let's be real, people are going to start with Sonic's story, so make it the easy one to ease players into the game. Maybe make the stages a small bit harder, but keep the length. Then, what was Team Sonic's stages would become Team Dark's, more of a challenge compared to Sonic's, but not something that asks too much of the player. Team Rouge would then have levels that just find one Chow in only a few of the levels, because does Amy really need to go to Haunted Mansion, or the Egg Fleet, or the goddamn motherfucking casino? No. So just a few levels and one Chow each, like the Chow missions from Sonic Adventure 2. Cut the special stages. I don't care. They're just not fun. Cut the special stages. It wouldn't make the game perfect, but it was already better when I axed one of the teams and then cut the third team in half. Man, I swear I like this game, and it's not nostalgia because I've picked it up here or there over the past year, less than a year from today, and I've enjoyed it as much as I did when I was a kid, and I bet you I'll pick it up after this video is out and still enjoy it, but just need to do a full playthrough, and just knowing that every time you beat a level, that's just the first time. You gotta do it 3 more times, and then Team Darks is gonna be even fucking harder, and by Team Rouge, you're gonna be bored already, and then Team Chaotix is gonna come in and say, hey, we're Team Chaotix, and fuck you. It takes a lot out of you. And I think that's just the problem. The game just drags when you're trying to play it fully. Picking it up to only play a couple missions and then forget about it for a little while, or pick it up in like a week, the game is pretty good. But knowing that you have to play the same level 3 more times is enough to make the fatigue set in before you've even beaten one story. And yet I still like this game. Team mechanic is pretty well implemented, even if it's flawed. I want to play this again. I'm not going to get all the emblems, and fuck you, game, for even asking me to get all the A ranks. No, fuck you. No, 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 absolutely not, no. And while I think it can be very annoying, bullshit, monotonous, I still find it enjoyable. And with that, this becomes a game that I recommend you play once. I do recommend it. I do think that there is fun here, but I can't recommend doing a full playthrough all in one go, because that is just not an enjoyable way to play this game. Beat a story, then take a break, and when you feel like replaying the game, pick a different team. And that is how you will enjoy Sonic Heroes. That is the only way to enjoy Sonic Heroes. Because even though I had my fair share of jank and bullshit, I would still say that during my first playthrough with Team Sonic, I had fun. And with Team Rose, I also did enjoy myself. So there is a fun game here. It's just very fatiguing, especially when you know that you have more stories to do. And it's also just one of those games that's really easy to pick on. There's a lot that's very clearly wrong with it, and it's just very easy to point that out and laugh at it. And that's Sonic Heroes. Hard to love, but in my case, harder to hate. But oh boy, did I get fucking close sometimes. So even though I still kind of like it, I think it's safe to say we have our first stinker with Sonic. It's enjoyable, like I said, but not a game that I can really recommend without a big ass, bigger than that, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller now. There we go. A big ass asterisk. So let's see if Sonic can redeem himself next time when I look at Shadow the Hedgehog. Oh, that's right. I forgot about God of War. Sorry, pain and suffering, because next time I'm looking at God of War, Chains of Olympus. Damn it.